Welcome back to 24 Hours Trending News Channel. President Joe Biden said Thursday that the risk of nuclear Armageddon is at the highest level since the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis, as Russian officials speak of the possibility of using tactical nuclear weapons after suffering massive setbacks in the 8-month invasion of Ukraine. Speaking at a fundraiser for the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee, Biden said Russian President Vladimir Putin was a guy I know fairly well, and the Russian leader was not joking when he talks about the use of tactical nuclear weapons or biological or chemical weapons. President Joe Biden said Thursday that the risk of nuclear Armageddon is at the highest level since the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis, as Russian officials speak of the possibility of using tactical nuclear weapons after suffering massive setbacks in the 8-month invasion of Ukraine. Speaking at a fundraiser for the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee, Biden said Russian President Vladimir Putin was a guy I know fairly well, and the Russian leader was not joking when he talks about the use of tactical nuclear weapons or biological or chemical weapons. Biden added, "We have not faced the prospect of Armageddon since Kennedy and the Cuban Missile Crisis." He suggested the threat from Putin is real because his military is, you might say, significantly underperforming. U.S. officials for months have warned of the prospect that Russia could use weapons of mass destruction in Ukraine, as it has faced a series of strategic setbacks on the battlefield, though Biden's remarks marked the starkest warnings yet issued by the U.S. government about the nuclear stakes. It was not immediately clear whether Biden was referring to any new assessment of Russian intentions. As recently as this week, though, U.S. officials have said they have seen no change to Russia's nuclear forces that would require a change in the alert posture of U.S. nuclear forces. "We have not seen any reason to adjust our own strategic nuclear posture, nor do we have indication that Russia is preparing to imminently use nuclear weapons," White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said Tuesday. The 13-day showdown in 1962 that followed the U.S. discovery of the Soviet Union's secret deployment of nuclear weapons to Cuba is regarded by experts as the closest the world has ever come to nuclear annihilation. The crisis during President John F. Kennedy's administration sparked a renewed focus on arms control on both sides of the Iron Curtain. Biden also challenged Russian nuclear doctrine, warning that the use of a lower-yield tactical weapon could quickly spiral out of control into global destruction. "I don't think there is any such a thing as the ability to easily use a tactical nuclear weapon and not end up with Armageddon," Biden said. "This is something that we are attuned to, taking very seriously, and communicating directly with Russia about, including the kind of decisive responses the United States would have if they went down that dark road," Sullivan said. Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky said earlier Thursday that Putin understood that the world will never forgive a Russian nuclear strike. "He understands that after the use of nuclear weapons he would be unable anymore to preserve, so to speak, his life, and I'm confident of that," Zelensky said. Biden's comments came during a private fundraiser for Democratic Senate candidates at the Manhattan home of James and Catherine Murdoch. He tends to be more unguarded, often speaking with just rough notes, in such settings, which are open only to a handful of reporters without cameras or recording devices. Putin and his officials have repeatedly threatened to use Russia's nuclear arsenal in an effort to deter the U.S. and its allies from supporting Ukraine and helping it resist the all-out Russian invasion launched in February. One fear is that he could use a short-range tactical nuclear weapon to try to stop Ukraine's counteroffensive in its tracks and force Kyiv to negotiate and cede territory. If Russia did use a nuclear weapon, it would leave the U.S. and its allies with the dilemma of how to respond. With most experts and former officials predicting that if Washington struck back militarily, it would most likely be with conventional weapons, to try to avert rapid escalation to an all-out nuclear war. But Biden said on Thursday night, "I don't think there's any such thing as the ability to easily use a tactical nuclear weapon and not end up with Armageddon. First time since the Cuban Missile Crisis, we have the threat of a nuclear weapon if in fact things continue down the path they are going," the president said. "We are trying to figure out what is Putin's off-ramp. Where does he find a way out? Where does he find himself where he does not only lose face but significant power?" U.S. intelligence agencies believe that Putin has come to see defeat in Ukraine as an existential threat to his regime, which he associates with an existential threat to Russia, potentially justifying, according to his worldview, the use of nuclear weapons. Thanks for watching us today. See you in the next update on 24 Hours Trending News Channel.